Welcome to the Ocean Chicks Horror Podcast. I'm your host, Karen, and tonight in the broadcast studio we have a Vancouver-based actor who's also a writer, director, voiceover artist, and indie filmmaker. My friend, the lovely Miss Ariel Hansen. I had a lovely chat with Ariel about how she started her career and a lot of the films that she's made so far. So sit back and enjoy the show, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Welcome to the Ocean Chicks Horror Podcast. I'm your host, Karen, and today in the broadcast studio we have my friend, actor, director, writer, and co-founder of Bad Cookie Pictures, Ariel Hansen. Hey, Ariel.
Hi.
Tell us about how you got into acting and horror and how where you're at today.
Oh, right. Well, the acting and the horror, those are two very different stories, so I can tell you both.
Okay.
So acting, I always wanted to do acting. Like, ever since I was a little kid, there were a few things I thought of that I wanted to do with my life. First, brief time, veterinarian. Then I found out they have to put down animals a lot, and I was like, no! Then I thought about animation. But then I learned that, they have to keep redrawing the same thing over and over again with the slightest changes, and I was like, maybe not. And then I always enjoyed putting on a show, performing for people, making people laugh. As I got older, making people scream. And so I kind of landed on acting. I did some school plays in elementary school. When I was in middle school, I joined the Tumbleweeds Theater Company, and I got to do all sorts of different plays and stuff, as well as continuing doing theater in school as well. And so I got to be Peter Pan. In school, I got to be Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream. Lots of really cool stuff. When I was Peter Pan, I actually got to learn how to use aerial silks.
Right.
So that was really cool, being able to climb up really high in the sky and swing from side to side of the stage and everything.
Yeah, wow.
And then after high school, I took a year off and then moved to Vancouver to pursue acting as a career. And I went to Vancouver Acting School for a full-time program. There, I got to not only do on-camera acting, but we also had once a week voiceover classes, which I fell in love with voiceover. And I actually work more in voice acting than on camera at the moment, but hopefully that'll even out and it'll be equal eventually. Mm-hmm. With voice acting, you don't need to worry if you're making a really weird face. And I can sometimes be a bit expressive with my face while I'm talking. Mm-hmm. Not always the best for when you're playing, say, the cashier, whose job is to say, "That'll be $6, have a nice day." You don't want to go, "That'll be $6, have a nice day." Because that reads a lot bigger on camera than in your brain it might.
Right.
That's sort of the acting side of things, how I got into that. And then horror, I actually was really scared of horror movies when I was little.
Oh, really?
Even though some of my favorite stuff was kids horror, so the Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Curse, Freaky Stories on YTV, Big Wolf on Campus, Vampire High, all that kind of stuff. I loved all that, Addams Family, but then I was scared to watch horror films, so I always had the fear before I was actually watching them, and then I'd be fine while I was watching them and after. Mm-hmm. And so forever I was just not watching horror movies. And then when I was about 16, I think, my dad rented Planet Terror. And and I'd been scared to watch it. I'd seen the trailers. I was like, this is gonna freak me out. And my dad was like, well, you can either watch it with me or you can go hang out in your room by yourself. And so I timidly just sat down on the couch and was like, guess I'll try watching it. And so started watching it, and I realized, why was I scared to watch this? It's a horror comedy. I was laughing my ass off, and after that point, I was fearless about watching films. So since then, shortly after that, I started actually keeping track of every horror film that I watched. I don't really do that anymore because there's too many to keep track of.
Yeah.
I stopped around 700, I think.
Wow.
And so I just got really into horror. I would use essays in school. I would try to make them about horror movies so that I could just write about things I actually enjoyed instead of trying to explain existentialism in an essay just from a philosophical standpoint. No. Instead, I'm going to do the existential journey in Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer. And that it made school more interesting. So yeah, I got really into horror. And then like when I went to acting school, we actually had to, as a part of our program, write a feature screenplay. So I learned about screenwriting.
Right.
And then after the program, which of course I wrote a horror film in the program. I'm right what you know, you know?
Yeah.
And so then after that, I wrote a short film while I was working at Booster Juice. And my friend was working there with me, and I shared the script with him and stuff, and we're like, okay, we're gonna get this made. I'd originally just written it to give myself an acting role, and then we were trying to find a director for it. Couldn't find someone else interested in directing it, so my buddy Cooper, Bad Cookie Pictures co-founder, he said to me, "Why don't you direct it?" And I was like, "Are you sure? I didn't go to film school or anything." It's like, "Yeah, just do it." And like we know people who know the things. And I was like, "Okay." And that's how Ready to Burst came to be. And that's
so that was the first film?
Yeah, that was the first film.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I thought Paint the Town Red was.
No, Paint the Town Red's actually the third film. I did Ready to Burst, and then I was brought onto a team as director for The Man in the Rabbit Mask, which was written by Joel Brewster. He's actually a Victoria-based film writer.
Okay, cool.
With a passion for horror. Then it was Man in the Rabbit Mask, which was funded through Story Hive.
Okay.
And then after that, it was Paint the Town Red, which was, I co-directed and co-wrote that with Topher. Then we did Paint the Town Red, which was a part of the Tales Beyond the Bar competition, which was this one-off competition sponsored by Jameson's.
Oh, okay.
So they paired different filmmakers with different bars here in Vancouver. And the idea was you make a film in a month and a half. And we did. And that was Paint the Town Red. And then then after that,
like these short time frames to make things, is it really intense, or is it?
It can be. There's a lot of people who actually do like 48-hour film competitions and stuff.
Wow.
I like a little longer to make something than that.
Yeah.
And then after that, we did the Bad Cookie combo, which we crowdfunded 2 different short films at the same time because we figured we're probably only going to get one chance at crowdfunding a short film. So let's make 2, so that way we each get to write and direct one. And that was I made Nepenthes, and then Topher made The Devil and I. And then after that, we made our VR films, which mine is called Relaxing Rituals ASMR.
Okay.
You might not be very relaxed by the end of it. And Topher's was Tune In for Murder, which is a 1940s murder mystery style film. And those, because they're 360 films, when you open them in YouTube, you can actually either wear a 3D headset and watch them, or you can like pull the screen around so you can see from all these different angles. But yes, I do really want to work on feature films next. So I actually have been doing a second draft of a feature adaptation of my short film Clout, which came out during the pandemic. Unfortunately, it's not available. Yeah, it's not available publicly yet because it's actually a part of an anthology for the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival,
Oh,
which
okay,
is
gotcha. I
it's
got
a
to
film
see
festival.
a screener of that one.
Yes, because sometimes we can make exceptions for media, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and so that film, you can actually get it on Blu-ray or DVD in the
Right.
H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival Best of 2020 edition.
Okay, cool.
Um, yeah, but that film, I've just been working on a second draft of a feature adaptation.
Okay,
So
so that requires a lot of fundraising and time. And
yes.
do you actually have, like, could you put together and put out something like that, or is that something that you would have to get a producer or,
Oh,
you
definitely
know,
would have to get a producer and everything.
right? Is that easy to do in this part of the world? Like, you're in Vancouver, so is it kind of easy to do that kind of thing here?
Yeah, it's I haven't tried it yet, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I know it can definitely be difficult. Within Canada, a lot of our films are actually, rather than privately funded, like a lot of American films are, they are funded through government grants.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
things like Telefilm, Creative BC, that kind of thing.
Right.
And while it's great that the arts are being supported by the government,
Hmm.
at the same time, there are some biases within the kinds of films that get made a lot.
Okay.
Um, they're just, let's just say, I might be a bit too gory for the government.
Right. Yeah, because getting a grant, you'd have to go through quite a process to be approved for a grant, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. But there's also other avenues. Like there's the Frontiers Market at Fantasia, where you can go to pitch your film to get international partnership and everything.
Right.
So I know several people who have pitched their films there. They've met funders through
Right.
that and gotten their films made.
Yeah.
So it's kind of every film, it's done differently.
Right.
Like, I mean, if you look back at, say, the history of the original Evil Dead film,
Right.
that was funded by, like, almost a pre-internet crowdfunding where Sam Raimi was going to dentists and stuff and being like, hey, give me $1,000 and I'm
Right.
making this movie.
Yeah.
So you just got to figure out how you're going to do it. But definitely, I'm looking to bring on producers with experience in getting
Right.
funding for features because that's what I don't have experience in.
If you did a feature like film and you got the grant in Canada to put it out here, does it go international? How does that work? Right.
So basically, you make your film, and unless you have a distributor signed on ahead of time,
Hmm.
uh, you're going to, after you've made that, there's different routes you can take. Like, things are so not just one way anymore, so there's
Right.
lots of different routes you can take with it. I know people who have self-distributed some films, so they like put it on Vimeo on demand and submit it to some other stuff, or you find a distribution company and they deal with like getting it into maybe a small theatrical run and getting it onto platforms like Shudder, Netflix,
Yeah.
Amazon Prime, those kinds of things.
Right.
And then when it comes to film festivals, you can do that either. You can use that either as a way to garner attention for your film and potentially get a distribution deal from that,
Right.
or you can, if you've already got a distributor, you can also just still submit to festivals. There's occasionally festivals that don't want films that have distribution deals, but those are rare. And
Right.
then you can use the festivals to get good reviews or just reviews in general.
Right.
Things to build hype for the film so that way when it becomes available on streaming platforms or in a theater or on DVD, people
Right.
are more interested in it.
Right. So how have you found the horror community to be in Vancouver and the indie film community?
I mean, I think it's pretty neat. I've got a lot of friends within the horror community here in Vancouver. Actually, I was a part of a documentary called Girls with Guts, and it was a documentary interviewing all sorts of women in the Vancouver horror scene. So there was myself, there was Gigi Salguerrero, there was Karen Lamb, Tristan Risk, Shirai Rules, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on their names. The Spear Sisters, Heather Perluzzo. I want to say Bruna Arbex, but I might not be getting her name right.
Right.
Julie Bruns, like so many women in horror in Vancouver. So, and that's just a small chunk of the horror pie here. So there's so many cool people. I actually, that's actually how I made all my film friends was Gigi. She worked at Fright Nights as one of the management people, and so I wanted to work at Fright Nights. It was my second year in Vancouver, and I sent in my application. I got brought in for an interview, and then I got brought in for the actual scaring people interview, and she was the one conducting that for me. Right. So I got to be all creepy and weird, and she thought I was good at being scary, so I got the job. And then after that, she was making Evil Dead in 60 Seconds as a part of this film competition that used to happen here called the Virgin Radio 60 Fake Film Festival, where you make 60-second versions of feature films. Wow. So she was making Evil Dead in 60 Seconds, and she needed a Cheryl, and I was so on board that I went. Maybe I might have gone a little bit overboard with the audition, but it was just because it's like one of my dreams, to do something Evil Dead, and then the timing just happened to be perfect because the Evil Dead remake came out that year. Right. So so the 60-second short got featured on Dread Central. Oh, it went fairly viral for a 60-second version of a horror film. Yep. And that got Luchagor, which is Gigi's production company, a lot of attention. And it also introduced me to a bunch of really cool people in the industry here. So I sort of look at that short as my nexus point into the indie film industry. Right. And I didn't meet Topher there. I met Topher at Gigi's birthday party, but that's I met Topher there. I met my friend Carolyn, who her partner Jordan has worked on almost all of our films, and just everything sort of spiders out. Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah. It's exciting talking to you because I have a lot of American friends that do YouTube and in the horror community. And, where I'm from, Victoria, Vancouver Island, there's not a lot of stuff going on. But now listening to you talk about Vancouver, which is just across the water, it's exciting that there's so many things going on. I'll have to get you to shoot me some of the links for these things so that I can share them out and, maybe do a video about it too so people can see what's going on here. That's very exciting. I didn't know about that Fright Nights. Oh, Fright Nights, yeah. It's so basically the Playland P&E turns into a haunted attraction at Halloween. Yeah, I didn't know we had one, and I actually spoke with Art the Clown in an interview, a live stream we did, and I talked to so many people about how we don't have anything like that here. And apparently we do. And actually, there's also some pretty good home haunts here too. In Clout, as well as in a film that I shot during the pandemic that is just awaiting its first festival selection, called Damned Supper. Our head makeup artist on those, who did the special effects makeup and everything, Asha Dayton, her family does a haunt in North Vancouver, and so it's pretty epic because she's trained in special effects, makeup, and all that kind of stuff. So they make some really crazy stuff, and they do it to, I can't remember what they're raising money for, but it has something to do with firefighters, I believe. So it's all like they just do it for the love of scaring people, and then the money that they make from it goes to charity.
Speaking of the makeup and special effects, do you do some of that, or do you bring in someone to do that for your films?
I definitely bring someone in because it takes a lot of training to get good. And I, of course, want to have the best possible effects in my films. So it's definitely something better to get someone who's an expert and can do it well than attempting to do it myself and just winding up disappointed with the end product.
Right.
There is a department that I occasionally do myself, which is the costume department, because I'm very experienced in sewing. So I have an interest in like historical costuming and everything. So for Damned Supper, I did all the costumes for that. And so I made 3 Victorian like ball gown kinds of dresses, as well as a 1940s evening dress.
Wow.
Yeah, because I had a particular palette I wanted to go with, and I wasn't sure about how expensive renting would be, so I just did it myself. And when I figured out how long it took to make those things, we would not have been able to afford to get someone to make them, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah.
And I was also very fortunate that my mom had a bunch of fabric she didn't want anymore in her closet that I was able to pick from, and had enough of each fabric to make these big dresses with these big skirts.
Yeah.
So
that's very cool.
Indie film, you really gotta figure out where you can save the money.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine that for sure. Yeah, and connecting with a lot of good friends too to help out, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What are your favorite movies? You're talking about Evil Dead. I expect that's one of your favorite horror movies.
Specifically Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2, got it.
Also, but also what also spurns my love for Evil Dead even more is the musical.
Okay.
I know all the songs from the musical, and that, like, I've probably listened to those more than I've seen the films, but I do love the films. Even the remake I really enjoyed. Loved the TV series.
Right.
But when it comes to like favorites, that's really hard because, it's like picking your favorite child.
Yeah, it is. That's a tough question. I know. It's always one that stumps everybody, actually.
Yeah. One of my top ones would be Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a horror comedy, and it's like it was actually filmed in Vancouver, funny enough, but it's these 2 hillbilly guys have bought this cabin in the woods as like their vacation home, and they're going to fix it up and everything.
Right.
And then there's this group of college students who are also camping in the woods, and they're just completely biased against the hillbillies, thinking that they're like creepy and they're going to kill them and stuff. And then through a comedy of errors, the college students just keep dying around them, but not because of anything they've done. And so then it becomes a feedback loop of the college students are getting more scared of them, and they're like, why do you keep committing suicide on our property?
So is comedy and horror together kind of your...
That's my favorite.
Yeah. And also, like, have you done theater, and would you do theater, or are you kind of sticking more with movie making?
I've done theater. That's how I actually started in acting, was doing like community as well as school theater. Mm-hmm. And I actually wrote a couple plays while I was in high school. I directed one that we actually did like 3 one-act plays for the school production one year, and I wrote and directed and acted in one of them. And then since moving to Vancouver, I haven't done much theater,
Right.
I did get a chance to actually do a little bit right before the pandemic
Yeah.
as a part of the Abracadaver Cabaret, which is this one night pre-Halloween, I guess you could say,
Right.
show. So it happened in the beginning of October.
Yeah.
And so I did a monologue reading,
Okay.
and it was very Lovecraftian, but also funny. And I do feel so weird about it though, because it's almost as if the show predicted the pandemic, because the
Right.
theme was apocalypse,
Oh,
and there was a lot of like something has happened and we are required to lock down and those kinds of things,
right.
those kinds of acts in the show. So it was like, oh, we were a little more topical than we thought.
Yeah. Yeah. So many things were really getting going just before everything shut down, too. How do you think that's going to affect you with what you're doing with things opening up again? Like, what are you excited to do now that
Film
things are.
festivals!
What's that?
Film festivals! That's
So
what I'm
that's
excited for. Because
yeah.
with the pandemic, everything went online. So that was
Right.
something that was unfortunate about Clout, because it wasn't done until 2020.
Right.
All the festivals that it went to up until probably last October were online. So I
Yeah.
didn't get the experience of meeting the other filmmakers and
Right.
hanging out
Yeah.
and just, you know, getting to make those connections. And it's also a lot easier to actually watch the films in a festival when you're not at home, because
Yeah.
you go, oh, well, I could be doing this other thing. Whereas if you've set aside the time to go to the festival, you're going
Yeah.
to watch the film.
Yeah. Much more of an experience. So, festivals, will you stay kind of primarily on the West Coast, or will you go to Toronto for that kind of thing too?
It depends on where I get selected. But if I do get selected for some in Toronto, I'm going to try to go for one I've been to before called Blood in the Snow. It's a
Okay.
really great festival. They do not just films, but they also have what's called deadly exposure. So
Right.
it's a way for filmmakers to meet some of the people within the industry who have the resources and everything to help you get a film made.
Right.
And they do panels, they do roundtable networking, they do all sorts of stuff. So that's always a
That's,
great festival.
yeah. Sounds like it.
If I get selected for some European ones, I might do a trip to Europe. We'll
Oh,
see.
that would be exciting too.
And then, of course,
Think you will.
there's lots in Vancouver. So, like the Vancouver Badass Film Festival is one of probably the most fun in the city.
Right.
And so I'll definitely be going to that if Damn Supper's selected.
Right.
And then, of course, like I've also submitted it to some of the more mainstream festivals that aren't just horror. We'll
Right.
see.
Yeah. Well, I think things are going to be really exciting for you in the next couple of years now that things are kind of opened up again. It's unfortunate things kind of shut down right when you were starting to kind of do everything, but you're
Yeah.
young, you got lots of time, lots of years ahead. You're going to do exciting things, wonderful things. So, what are you, just to reiterate everything we talked about, what are you working on next? What are your next
Oh,
big projects that you can tell people about?
I'm just gonna say right now it's a lot of writing.
A lot of writing. Okay.
Yeah, working on some feature scripts, working with a writer on a feature script to, like, the script's done, so now it's developing the pitch and everything so we can try to get some producers, funders, and everything on board.
Right.
And then, yeah, it's just doing those and trying to make a movie, trying to make
Yeah.
a feature. That's my next thing in sight. So,
Right.
yeah.
Um, so how can people watch some of your films, and where can they purchase or, get at some of these other things as well?
Okay, so majority of our short films are available on the Bad Cookie Pictures YouTube channel.
Right.
So
I'll
if you
have
just
that
look up,
linked down below too.
perfect. Yeah. Otherwise, just type in Bad Cookie Pictures. It should be the only channel that shows up. And then Clout is available, as I had mentioned, a part of the HP Lovecraft Film Festival Best of the Fest 2020. That you can get on Amazon.
Right.
And not Amazon, like not Prime Video, but like you buy a DVD or a Blu-ray on Amazon.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
Or you can get it better than Amazon. You can get it directly from the HP Lovecraft Film Festival website. So go there first, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, that's pretty much everything. Is either YouTube or that one film. We've made most of our stuff available, and you can also check the Bad Cookie Pictures website, www.badcookiepictures.com. We've got pages about our films. You can see some behind the scenes photos. You can follow the various social media accounts we have. So if you look up Bad Cookie Pictures on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, we're on all of those.
Right.
And then if you also are interested in my acting stuff, then you can go to arielhansen.ca, or you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook I go by Hansen's Horror on those.
Okay, got it. Oh, that's cool. I'm sure you'll have people messaging you now like crazy too. You'll be like, oh, I missed the pandemic.
Oh, you still get lots of emails in the pandemic, let me say.
Yeah, lots of people reaching out.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Which of your movies is your favorite? All of them, right?
Or it's just whatever one's the most recent. I really like Damn Supper.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's because it's not out yet. It's
okay.
Yeah, we've submitted it to festivals and we're waiting for the first acceptance at a festival. So yeah, we actually haven't even had a chance to have the cast and crew screening yet because we've been a little like, is it safe yet? I don't know, because last thing you want to do is have your cast and crew screening be a super spreader event,
Yeah, I hear ya. Soon enough it will be, though. Things are really firing up again, so I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think if we try to encourage masking, then it would probably be safe to do. So yeah. So that one is it's not available anywhere yet. It'll hopefully be coming to a festival near you soon. So
very cool.
Yeah, there'll be updates about that on the Bad Cookie social media accounts.
Okay.
So if you're really excited and you want to know where or when you can see it, you should follow Bad Cookie Pictures on social media.
Okay, so social media, people can find you, and the website Bad Cookie Pictures, and YouTube channel for that as well. Yeah, you guys have to check out her films. I know I have a Facebook group, and you've been sharing some of them out there. People are pretty excited about that, but they're so incredible. I'm just having seen your journey, like from when you kind of started to now, is incredible. The things that you've done, like I'm blown away that you've done so many components of this process yourself. And you did go to school, but a lot of it you've self-taught. You've just gotten out there and rolled up your sleeves and said, I'm gonna go for it and do it. And I think that's really amazing. I love sharing those kinds of stories.
One thing I do want to say, though, is I could not have gotten to where I am without the help of all the awesome people who have worked with me on my films. There's a reason I don't pull a Tommy Wiseau and do every department. It's because there are people who are incredibly skilled, who know what they're doing, and I can learn from. So if I try to bring those people on board to basically fill in all the many gaps that
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's really a team effort. Nothing would be possible without that. And I also do have to thank my friend Gigi, because she did, before I shot Ready to Burst, give me a bit of a 2-hour TED talk on how to direct a film.
Right.
So
Okay. But you still did it. Yeah. No, I hear you. The community side of it is really, really important. It's the same kind of thing on
yeah,
YouTube as well. Building community, right? To make
yeah,
things. So it's very exciting, like for, maybe people that are up and coming and they want to get into this field, that's how it works. You don't
yeah.
have to, you get out there and you make friends and you learn and
You help them, they help you.
yeah,
It's really the best. The way you make something cool is you
yeah.
build a community and everyone scratches each other's backs.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, it's been so lovely talking to you. I've learned so much. That's why I was kind of quiet, because I'm learning so many things that I didn't know, and I thought I knew everything, but apparently I don't. So I will link all of your links down below in the description box when I get this uploaded. This will be available as, of course, a podcast and a video version. Yeah, is there anything else you want to promote or say?
Ooh, I mean, if you want to hear me voice act, I'm in some mobile games.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So one that's actually coming to end of service in the next few months, called Dragalia Lost.
Okay.
I'm 2 different characters in that,
That's
Catherine
cool.
and Fudo Mayu. And that one's actually, what's kind of cool is that when Nintendo's involved in it.
Wow.
So that was really cool to be like, I worked on a Nintendo game. And
That's
I'm also in a game called Mythic Heroes.
okay.
And I am also in a game called Lord's Mobile.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
so
did
these
not
are
know
all
these things.
free to play on your phone.
But that's very exciting, though. I'll definitely check those out.
Yeah, and also just if you want to see some stuff I sew, because I like to make costumes, I
Right.
post those on my Instagram fairly regularly.
That's cool too. Okay, Ariel. Well, yeah, thanks so much for doing this and taking some time
Thanks
out
for
to
having
chat
me.
with us all. And this was super fun.
Yeah, I hope people enjoy this and
They
keep
will.
watching your.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.